Hey there guys, Coach Brandon here. Today we're going to be looking at how to deal with an opponent who has switched over to a reverse crossface or a reverse underhook. We typically just tend to generalize these and call them reverse half guards. Let me show you what these are really quick. So Adam, I'm going to have you lay down. So in a situation where I'm in half guard and maybe Adam has a knee shield, what some people will do to try to get around the knee shield is they'll push the knee out of the way, and then they'll try to come over the top with either a reverse crossface here or a reverse underhook, where I take my right arm underneath Adam's right arm. Typically underhooks are left on right. A reverse underhook is right on right here. Now the reason that people like to do this is because it allows me to take my left knee off the floor. When we get to our half guard passing chapter, I'm going to talk to you guys about how passing the half guard is a multi-stage process. It often involves freeing your knee first, and then freeing the ankle second. When I switch to this position where I can easily take my knee off the floor, it becomes very easy for me to free my trapped knee, and now all that's left to free is a trapped ankle. I can drive over to 3/4 mount and start passing from here and things like that. So that's the benefit of why your opponent might want to go to reverse half guard. Since this is a study on the bottom half guard, we need to be aware of what to do when our opponent does that to us. And one of the big key features that I think about when I'm attacking from Adam's position here is the fact that the top person has taken an arm and they've passed it across their center line for you. And we know that anytime we can take an opponent's limb and bring it across the center line, there's back exposure. Now the big fight here from a reverse half guard is that, I'm going to get on the other side here quick. The big fight here from reverse half guard is that the arm is across the center line, but Adam needs to get his right leg underneath my left leg here. If he can do that, now he can take my back. So if we want to take the back from reverse half guard, it's all about how does Adam take this leg and bring it to the outside of my body here. I've got some good methods to do that, so let's take a look. Okay, first I'm here. Adam's going to sit through, let's say, reverse crossface first. So he goes over my head. He takes his right knee off the floor, sitting onto his left hip just like so. The first thing that I want to do from this position is I want to keep Adam's arm trapped across my center line as much as possible. So my left arm is going to reach up nice and deep around the neck, coming back down toward my head, and I'm going to use my head strongly against his tricep. Now when Adam goes to bring his arm back across the center, it's not always going to be easy. If your opponent is narrower through the shoulders, this is a lot harder for them to escape from. If your opponent is wider through the shoulders, and I can only get my hand to here, now he may very well be able to get his arm back across. So if we see this kind of situation, and Adam brings his arm back across the center, I want to take an inside bicep tie. So now when Adam goes to control my head, he can't. Now when Adam corrects his base, I'm going to have space to take my elbow across, and I get into my good half guard sweeping position that we've been looking at for the last several weeks. So that's kind of the introduction to that. So let's say we're in a situation where I am able to trap my opponent's arm across my center line. So my left arm is doing its job. My right arm's job is going to be to go down here and get a grip on the pant leg. If Adam's hips are on the floor like they are, I'm going to use my two knees to start to drag Adam's hips across, kind of across a little bit so I can pick his hips up, and I get my grip right here. Then I can set him back down, that's not a problem. So again, I'm from here, and I want to get a grip on the pants. I use my two knees to drag his hips. I push off my elbow off the floor for power. If my elbow's not on the floor and I try to drag, there's no power. I drive my elbow down, and I can pick his hips up and get my grip on the pants. Now from here, I'm going to take my left my left foot and pummel it in as a butterfly grip, or a butterfly hook. As I do this, it's important that my right leg back heels as a good strong inside hook. If I'm lazy here, Adam will simply step off my butterfly hook and he'll pass. So from this position, I keep my knees pinched, my right leg back heels, and now as I pummel my butterfly hook in, when Adam goes to step off my leg, I have it caught. Now, we're ready to go. My right foot is going to go to the floor very briefly, and we're not going to take a lot of time to do this because we're giving up control of the leg. And now, my left butterfly hook elevates and begins to pull to my left. As I do that, I drive my right foot down into the mat for power, and my right arm lifts his leg. And I force him to hop over my right leg. Come back. So all I'm doing, I don't need to get a crazy amount of altitude on this. I just need him to hop this leg over my right leg here. We go here, everything drags across to my left, not straight up. If I go straight up, it's hard to free my leg. So everything goes up and to my left. Here. Now I control the far hip. Oftentimes, Adam will start to turn to his knees. Follow him up. Hip heist. And we end up in the same position that we saw when we were taking the back from half guard. Where now if Adam sits here and does nothing, I hit a power half, breaking him down to take the back. If I get diagonal control and Adam goes to turn to face me, I cover the hip and we go through on a Garcia roll. If Adam goes up to a 4-point, I use asymmetrical hooks so I don't fall off, and then I hit him with a power half to break it down. Okay, all these same things that we saw when we were taking the back apply to this position as well. So that's one butterfly hook elevation to take the back. Next, I'm going to show you how we create a multi-directional dilemma between taking my opponent to the left to take the back and taking him to the right to sweep. And there's a couple different manifestations of this. So from this position, I trap the arm. I get the pants. I make a good inside hook. I put in my butterfly hook. Now as I take Adam across, when I get to here, if Adam moves to his right, it becomes very easy for me to come up and take the back. So Adam's going to want to drive into me to avoid me taking the back. Now I can't come up. But I have a butterfly hook here, and he's giving me his weight in this direction. So I use a butterfly sweep to take him up and over right here. Now my right hand and my head go to the floor for stability. He pinches around the ankle. I tripod, make a butterfly hook, and I pry my foot free to here where I have two butterfly hooks. Now my right butterfly hook stays in, while my left pummels across to almost a knee on belly position. Now my right butterfly hook can come out. If I take my right butterfly hook out first and then try to pummel across, he's going to trap my ankle. So I go here, I take my left butterfly hook across. If he controls my right ankle, that's not a big deal. I can use my left knee to pry my leg free. So that's one example of the multi-directional dilemma. Once I expose my opponent's back, if he continues to go away from me, I take the back. If he drives back into me, I hook sweep him in the other direction. This dilemma also applies before I'm able to get Adam over my bottom leg. From this position here, once again, I trap his head. I trap the arm across the center. I drag his hip off the ground so I can get the grip on the pants. I pummel in my butterfly hook. Now from here, I want to lift him up to my left and force him to hop over my right leg. As I do so, Adam makes his left hip very heavy. So I cannot lift, no matter how hard I try. But the heavier he makes his left hip, the easier it becomes for me to plant my right foot on the floor and drive into him. And now we can come up on top, into the top position, using a hook sweep before we've gotten the back exposed to us. So now we've seen 3 techniques. We've taken the back. We've forced our opponent to hop over our leg, and then we've taken them the other direction with a hook sweep if they prevent the back take. And if they resist the back take so hard that I can't even lift the hip, I can't even begin the process, I can still sweep them back the other way with a hook sweep. Okay, so I want you to keep those in mind because we're going to see that same pattern play out from reverse underhooks or something similar. Before we move on to reverse underhook, I want to quickly show another alternative from the reverse crossface. Okay. Best one for this is probably going to be, let's do this side. So from a reverse crossface here, we can also try to use a knee lever and then a hand frame behind the tricep. Now the problem with a knee lever from this position is I need Adam's knee on the ground. If I try to knee lever from here with his knee off the ground, it has no effect. If Adam were to put his knee on the floor, switch your hips. Right here, perfect. Now, I take my feet here next to the knee, I pick my hips up, and now I can use my knees to drag Adam's hip out of off balance. Again, that only works if the knee's on the floor. So what if he brings the knee off the floor? Like back on your hip. Yes. Now I can't knee lever. No problem. We do a 2-stage knee lever. Where first I use my 2 legs pinched around his, and I'm going to use my knees to start to drag his leg across my body to put the knee back down on the floor. Now with the knee close to the ground, I move my feet, crossing my toes, and now we can once again engage in our knee lever. Now you might be thinking to yourself, why would I knee lever in that direction? All of his bases are over here with both arms. The knee lever is just to break his balance. How we really get out is I take my right hand here and I grip the gi right behind the arm. If you want, you can also thumb post behind the tricep. That's also acceptable. From this position, I use my 2 knees together to drag Adam's knee to the floor. I take my knee lever, and now I'm going to stiff arm, base. I stiff arm here. Now I can begin to shrink my hips, scooting, and I can recover my guard, and now we're ready to go back on the offense. So those are some good ways of dealing with a reverse crossface. Now let's go to a reverse underhook. We have a few different ways to get my bottom leg underneath of Adam's body and expose the back from the reverse underhook. We have our butterfly hook with elevation like we saw with the reverse crossface. Then we also have an elbow escape method, and then something that's a cross between a hip heist and a back heist. So I'll show those options as well. So from the half guard, Adam sits through to a reverse underhook. So now my arm is not underneath his head. I can't trap the arm the same way. I'm just going to take my elbow and cover the shoulder. So now when Adam tries to take his arm back across my body, it's stuck. Now from here, I like to grab the belt. Once again, I'm going to use the belt grip to lift his hips, driving off the floor, and I'll use my knees as well, just so I can get to this pant grip here. Now again, I back heel so he can't back step with the right leg as I pummel in a butterfly hook. Here. Now the same thing, I begin to lift and extend with the butterfly hook. My right foot goes to the floor, and everything lifts out into my left. And I drop him right here. Now the same thing, I control the hip. As he turns, I come up, and we have our same series from here. The power half, he stays here. We have the Garcia roll if I get diagonal control and he rolls. We have asymmetrical hooks if he goes up to 4-point position, etc., etc. It's all the same stuff, just started off in a different way. So that's how we use the butterfly hook to elevate and take the back off of reverse underhook. The same multi-directional dilemma comes into play as well. From here, blocking the arm, I get a grip on the belt, I get my grip on the pants, I pummel my feet into position. Now as I go to lift, Adam makes his left hip very heavy. When I feel this, I'm just going to take my right foot, plant it on the floor here, and I begin to drive up to my right shoulder so that my hips come off the floor. I come up, and I can start to sweep that way. So again, we have our same multi-directional sweep where I can take the back by taking him to my left. Or if he fights back so vigorously that I can't take him to my left, I take him to my right using a hook sweep and a drive line. Here. So again, that same multi-directional concept. It's very, very important that you understand push-pull, action-reaction, or multi-directional dilemmas, which are all really the same thing. Push-pull, action-reaction, multi-directional dilemmas, it all means the same thing. Now, we're going to go into another way for me to clear my bottom leg. So far, every method of clearing my bottom leg to take the back has been done out of a butterfly hook and an elevation. Now, we're going to use an elbow escape to clear my bottom leg. And then after that, if I can't get an elbow escape to work, we're going to see how I can use this kind of hip heist, back heist combination. So from the reverse underhook, I'm here. If I don't want to pummel on a butterfly hook, I can use an elbow escape. I take my hands and I start to drive Adam down toward my hips. Here, grabbing onto the belt. Now from here, I take my right elbow underneath his hip just like so. My right leg back heels so I can put my foot on the floor. Remember, if my right leg is lazy here, Adam will simply step out and be gone. When I keep a good inside hook, now Adam goes to step out, it's not easy. Now I'm going to use this left foot on the floor to shrimp. I begin to shrimp my hips away, pointing my right knee down to the mat, looking to connect my right elbow to my right knee. Here. Now I can begin to drive, coming up to an elbow or hand prop, and I'm going to scoot from my right hip to my left hip. Now the same thing, I'm going to reach across, grabbing the hip. I hip heist up, and lo and behold, we're in our same position. We have power halves. We have Garcia rolls. We have asymmetrical hooks if he goes to a 4-point. Then we also have our slicer roll, for those of you who remember that one. When my opponent rolls away from me and I don't have diagonal control. And of course, you can always just stay in the top position. If he goes to roll, I can just base out and I can end on top and get my sweep. So that was exposing our opponent's back using an elbow escape to join elbow and knee together. I come up to my hand and I switch, grabbing it. Now, you're not always going to be able to connect your elbow and knee. You're not always going to have the space to get your knee inside their hip. because you can't get your hip far enough away from their hip to get your knee inside. You need this much space. So if I can't get enough space between my hip and his hip with a simple shrimp, this is where I'm going to start to elevate and drive. Now this is going to allow me to create a ton of space between my hip and his hip. Now from here, I can throw my knee between me and him, and we'll end up in the same position. One more time, Adam. So from a reverse underhook, once again, trying to drive him down. Once again, controlling the belt grip. Once again, I like to start with this grip if I can. It's not always possible, okay? But if you can get it, great. If you can't get it, we saw that I have the elbow and the hip. Now with the elbow and the hip, I can try to elbow escape. But let's say there's a situation. I'm going to try our previous technique, our elbow escape, keeping a good back heel. And I can't get the space here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive up, trying to get my hips off the floor and trying to go belly down. Here. Now I can throw my knee between me and Adam, and there's all this space now. The knee comes between, I start to sit up. I go to the far hip. I hip placed up to my knee, and now once again we find ourselves in the same position. Let me do that one more time. So one more time here. Here, I'm trying to get my elbow in, it's not working. I'm trying to shrimp, that's not working. So I need to drive my feet into the floor. Last time I did it like so, driving up, that's okay. Another thing you can do is you can bring your left leg back over the knee, take your bottom foot to the floor, and heist up this way. So now I'm driving off my right toes, like so. Now from here I take my knee inside, coming up, controlling the hip heist, and we're back to our same attacking position. Alright, that's almost going to do it. Okay, we looked at variations of back takes and variations of hook sweeps. Last but not least, I'm going to show you another technique that doesn't really fit in with these techniques, but it works well nonetheless. And that's looking at another variation of the back roll sweep. Do you remember last week our back roll sweep? Knee shield, please. We looked at a couple variations with a straight cuff grip and a cross collar where I brought my head in and I back rolled here. Then we looked at another variation with a cross cuff and a straight leg grip. We pulled the arm across, we load the knees up, and we hit a back roll sweep there. Notice from this position, dragging the arm across my center, this is very similar to a reverse underhook. Adam, will you take a reverse underhook? There, just like that, same position. So, let's say there's a situation where Adam takes a reverse underhook, and we get caught here. All I'm going to do, I'm going to take a grip on Adam's cuff on this side, and I'm going to start to push that cuff down. My right hand takes a grip on the knee. Now I'm going to use my two knees to pull Adam's hips in over the top of me as I back roll over my left shoulder. My goal is to get Adam's left shoulder to touch the mat over on this side. So with my two grips, I begin to go into a back roll, and I can hit a back roll sweep from there as well. So that's another option that kind of ties in with our knee shield lesson. From knee shield, we looked at a back roll, and we saw we can do that same or a similar back roll execution from reverse underhook. So just to recap, from the reverse crossface, we have options where I can elevate my opponent and take the back. If he drives back into me, I sweep him in the other direction. if I'm never able to even elevate him from reverse crossface. I go to elevate, he drives and resists me so hard in the other direction. I drive my toes into the floor, take him over with a hook sweep. We also saw from the reverse crossface, I can grip the gi pants, hit that 2-stage knee lever, the first stage to get his knee to the floor, the second stage of off balance, and I drive. Now I can come up, shrimp, and recover. Then we saw similar things play out from reverse underhook. I can use the reverse underhook to put in a butterfly hook and elevate up and over, and take that. If he drives into me and I can't elevate, I take him the other direction with a hook sweep, just like we saw from reverse crossface. Then from the reverse underhook, we saw a couple other options where I can either perform an elbow escape on the near hip to get my knee in front of the bottom hip and expose the back that way. Or if I can't get my knee in front of the hip because there's not enough space, I can back heist, getting my hips propped up off the floor, and I can create space that way. Then I can use that space to drive my knee underneath his hip and expose the back again. And then we also saw how we can use the reverse reverse underhook position to control the cuff, control the pants, take them up and over into a back roll sweep. So this is the last lesson, week number 8 of our bottom half guard chapter. Hopefully this lesson will give you a well-rounded enough bottom half guard game that you will be able to find success regardless of the bottom half guard position you find yourself in. That's going to be it for this chapter, and I'm looking forward to getting into our next chapter with you guys, which is